Please subscribe, like and activate the bell if you like the content, so we can continue for more. Give your opinions and suggestions in the comments so that we can develop the channel. Thank you. It is a Moroccan city, overlooking the Atlantic coast, 40 kilometers north of the capital, Rabat, one of the most important cities of the kingdom. It is inhabited by 800,000 people, through which the Americans and the French, and while some traces of the French presence remained in the city today, the imprints of the American presence have faded, except for traces traceable, through oral testimony and some photos in the bars and clubs frequented by Americans. Among what the Americans left, there is a place that is barely known even to the inhabitants of the city. It is the tomb of the unknown soldier at the entrance to the Kasbah of Mahdia, next to a fish statue which put a watchword for the presence of the marine anchorage on the beach which the Kasbah of Mahdia witnessed between the French and the Americans in the early 40s of the last century. The history of Kenitra has also been marked by several personalities, whether passing through or residing there, the most prominent of which is the Algerian resistance fighter Mohamed Boudiaf, considered one of the most important faces of the Algerian Revolution against the French colonialism. Boudiaf resided for nearly 2 decades in Kenitra, where he distanced himself from politics and ran a wage factory before being summoned to Algeria, where he was recommended as the country's president to succeed Chadli Benjedid, before being assassinated 166 days after his appointment. Full stop. It goes without saying that the city of Kenitra is considered one of the largest and most important Moroccan cities in the northwest of the kingdom. This city, which is located on the south bank of the Rabat River, 12 kilometers from the mouth of the Atlantic Ocean at the seaside resort of Mahdia, and at the crossroads of the main and important trade routes linking the cities of east and north of the kingdom and its center, Fez, Tétouan, Tangier, Rabat and Casablanca, is considered in its recent creation. As the economic capital, Casablanca, unlike other cities for comparison, Kenitra is located about 10 kilometers east of the ruins of Mahdia, dating from the Carthaginian era. The Phoenicians stayed there in the 1st millennium BC, in what was called Antic Bathamusida or Tamusada. Kenitra takes its name from the small arch that spanned Lake Al-Fawarat, which was destroyed in 1928. French colonial authorities called the town Port Lyautey, after General Lyautey in 1933, and it regained its true name after Morocco regained its independence from France in 1956. It witnessed the Portuguese occupation in 1515 and the Spanish in 1614, and Sultan Walid Ismail was able to liberate the castle in 1681. In March 1912, the Fez Agreement was signed between Sultan Abdelhafiz and the French government. Summarizing this agreement, the Sultan gives the French army all the powers to suppress the Berber tribes who rebel against the tyranny of the Maxim government. The weak Sultan asked for help from the French, given the alliance of the Berber tribes who inhabited the mountains overlooking the capital, Fez. The French government appointed General Lyautey, Resident General of Morocco, after the success of the general's army in restoring peace and security to the country and transferring the Sultan's palace from the city of Fez to the current capital, Rabat. Lyautey began the civil administration of Morocco to give high priority to the construction of ports on the Atlantic coast. Kenitra became a major commercial center used by the protection authorities to import their military arsenal from France and export the goods of the western agricultural region, especially fruit, wood, cork, fish and certain minerals such as zinc and lead. The port was built near the Kasbah, which was created in 1895 to establish a military garrison, and near the Kenitra, which was built by the Maxim commander Ali Awadi since the end of the 17th century, and which was destroyed by the colonial authorities in 1928. The issuance of the General Residence Decree on January 1, 1913, according to which the river port of Kenitra was opened for commercial navigation, is considered a decisive turning point in strengthening and expanding the role of the city of Kenitra and expanding its influence and sphere of influence. The role of this port was limited to military activity, since colonial forces, military equipment, supplies and various materials were landed there and transported into the country towards Fez and neighboring regions, via traditional routes of the Maxim, in order to suppress the tribal uprisings rejecting the reign of the Sultan. The influence of the port has had positive repercussions on the attraction of investments, particularly in the industrial field, such as the food, chemical and mineral industries, and also in the field of construction boom and distinguished industrial growth. And in connection with these significant economic transformations, masses and cohorts of Moroccan residents have flocked to the city from all parts of the kingdom, especially from the west, from Kenitra, from Banias and from the mountainous regions, which has contributed to the strong demographic growth that the city of Kenitra has known and to the expansion of its urban fields since the city has attracted legions of Europeans and centenarians. Within the framework of the policy of discrimination and racial segregation, which is at the heart of colonial policy, the authorities of the French protectorate worked, especially after the establishment of the Municipal Committee at the end of 1914, to divide the urban area of the city of Kenitra into three main sections: the military division, which is specific to military interests and installations; the modern city for Europeans, which also includes the following districts: Val Florian, Al-Mostrajal. Then, the residential neighborhoods of the Moroccan population, called the people, which are neighborhoods where there is no or lack of infrastructure and basic equipment, and the most important shanty towns are scattered there, which were partly exposed to a terrible fire in 1946. In a letter to U.S. President Roosevelt, the U.S. Secretary of State for the Army said of the occupation of Kenitra Military Airport on November 10, 1942, the U.S. naval barge Dallas stormed the mouth of the Cibao Valley in a direction opposite to the course of the river, and after cutting an iron rope extending the width of the river, the barge crossed 10 kilometers under heavy party fire from the French government army of Vichy allied with Hitler. And we were able to land our soldiers at Kenitra Airport successfully and without material or human losses. The success of this military operation contributed to the victory of the coalition forces on the North African front. The Americans occupied Kenitra Military Airport from 1942 to 1947, and France had no say until the airport was restored to French administration after lengthy discussions with the State Department. American. In 1950, the military airport in the city of Kenitra was expanded to become a major airbase under the leadership of former U.S. Secretary of Defense Lewis Johnson to include over 10,000 U.S. troops, making the number the second largest U.S. military base in the world outside of the United States of America. During the Cold War years, the Americans used the air base in conjunction with the Royal Armed Forces. The Americans contributed to the development of the Moroccan Air Force by training young pilots and supplying Morocco with F-5 combat aircraft. Kenitra was also known as Halila, which is a leafy plant with a yellow flower that covered most areas of the city before its reconstruction. This flower is yellow in color and was used after having topped it in the construction of Al Nural, the plural of Naala, which is a type of habitat originating in Black Africa that appeared with the advent of the Senegalese armies during the First World War 1914 to 1918, where the local people of Mahdia, Hadida, Al-Raji, Al-Sakniya, Al-Burga'al, Al-Nakakasa, Al-Shulayhat, who lived in woven tents, started to imitate the Africans in building this type of housing which will later be replaced by slums. Since its creation, the city of Kenitra has been subject to the domination of the territorial and administrative influence of Rabat, the political and administrative capital of the Noble Kingdom, at the time of the Protectorate or after that of the first 10 years of independence. Full stop. By it and through it, demonstrations and uprisings have been suppressed, and revolutions rejecting colonialism and demanding its departure have been suppressed. For this and other purposes, a group of departments and facilities affiliated with the center were established, whether those related to the monitoring of the population and their movements, and later to the establishment of sovereignty of the modern state, or those related to the preparation of the regional domain. Kenitra, administrative capital and center of radiation of a vast region which divides the West, Cherda and Zemmerzar, in view of the important place that the city of Kenitra has assumed at the local, regional and national level since the dawn of independence. On the demographic level, since its population, according to the first official census of housing and population for the year 1960, reached 77,586 people, at a time when, for comparison, the population of Sidi Qasim reached 19,478 people and Sidi Slimane 11,486 people and Thursday's 16,953 people. Given the importance of the city of Kenitra in terms of industry, commerce and services for the reasons that we have briefly mentioned above, the modern Moroccan state endeavored to make the city of Kenitra in 1965 a capital administrative par excellence for a vast region which included, in addition to the province of Kenitra, the current provinces of Kemessat and Sidi Qasim. This situation continued until August 13, 1973, when the region of Kemessat was then created, so that the administrative link between this region and the city of Kenitra could be disengaged. 9 years later, in the year 1982, A new region will be created, the region of Sidi Qasim, but this region will remain attached to the city of Kenitra from the issuance of the Honorable Dahir organizing the 16 regions. With the issuance of the Noble Dahir of April 2, 1997 No. 19784 organizing the regions, the West Kirirta region was created Bani Hassan, and the city of Kenitra was rehabilitated, so to speak, making it the capital of the region in its entirety. In other words, its administrative and territorial influence now includes 73 municipalities, including 11 urban districts and 8 territorial districts. All the public and semi-public administrations endowed with financial autonomy necessary for the regional administration are stationed in the city of Kenitra. As for the administrative division of the city of Kenitra, at the local level and that of the city itself, the decree taken on September 28, 1992 under the number 720929 constituted a turning point and a new experience which denies the management of the city's local public affairs. Since the city was transformed into a municipality in 1959, it was divided in 1992 into 2 urban communities, Kenitra, Namora and Kenitra, Sakinia. The main reason for this division was to give a new impetus to the development of the city and to allow the marginal neighborhoods to benefit from this development by creating and adding state-of-the-art equipment and infrastructure in line with the known demographic growth of the city, whose population reached 627,292 people according to the General Housing and Population Census for the year 1994. This number reached 1,167,301 according to the General Population Statistics for the year 2004. That is an increase rate of 1.8%. However, this division has created several problems, including the major imbalances in economic and social growth and development that both groups have experienced, which have been created by the unequal distribution of wealth and the income or resources that create the wealth. This is what prompted the competent authorities to refrain from working with this division and to return and work with the unity of the city to unify visions within a single urban fabric and to unify and collect the financial, technical and other resources, whatever the modalities, they are few. Thus, the 2002 decree merged the 3 aforementioned urban communities into a single urban community, the urban community of the city of Kenitra, which currently has an area of 10,600 hectares. The policy of administrative division, with which successive governments have worked to manage the public affairs of the country since the dawn of independence until today, has greatly contributed to the development of the urban fabric of various Moroccan cities of all degrees. Bringing in local, national and foreign capital, and the most important cities that have benefited from this movement and attention to large cities remain, at the top of which is the city of Kenitra, which has been able to achieve qualitative leaps in several areas which surpassed other ancient Moroccan cities for only 9 decades. Kenitra, due to its location between the north and the south of Morocco, as well as its great natural capacities, has been a station of transit and stability for many civilizations through different periods of history. Thus, it is full of many archaeological sites and monuments that testify to the prosperous past of the region, which calls for knowing this heritage first, then considering it, then using it economically, culturally and socially with a goal of sustainable development. Development for this region. The Tamusida Sidi Ali bin Ahmed site is located on the left bank of the Saba River, 10 kilometers from the city of Kenitra. Human settlement on the site dates back to the prehistoric period, as evidenced by the archaeological remains discovered in the region. Excavations at the site have revealed the remains of houses dating from the Moorish period and several pottery mostly dating from the first half of the 2nd century BC. Archaeological research currently taking place at the site has revealed remains of pottery and amphoras dating from the 3rd and 4th centuries BC. In Roman times, the city underwent significant urban development, and the site was distinguished by the establishment of a Roman camp in addition to the public facilities of the temple, the baths, private buildings and houses. The city was known during the reign of Emperor Trajan 117 AD and 97 AD, or Emperor Adrian 117-138 AD, a major urban restructuring, as several buildings were extended, including the baths adjacent to the Sipo River and several buildings and houses of a Roman character. The Tamusida camp is one of the most important military installations in Mauritania. During the last quarter of the 2nd century CE, the city was surrounded by a wall containing several gates and towers. The city experienced an important economic movement as evidenced by the remains of pottery that arrived on the other side of the Rabat River from various countries of the Mediterranean. Like the Roman towns south of the Locus River, Tamusaida experienced the evacuation of Roman administration between 274 and 280 AD. This site is considered one of the most important ancient cities in the western region as a whole. The Kasbah is located at the mouth of the Awad Sebao, on the Atlantic Ocean, 12 kilometers from the city of Kenitra. It was built on a rocky slope, and the ruins of its walls are still visible on the Atlantic coast, in order to control and protect this coastal region. The history of this city is still full of mystery. Some historians consider the site a Carthaginian outpost dating from the 5th century BC. AD. Others dated its foundation to Bani Ifrin. Apart from that, the town or region of Mamora was not mentioned until the time of the Almohads in the 12th century AD, when Abd al-Mumin built 120 boats in this area. Since this period, the city has evolved into a place of small commercial exchange where trade agreements and exchanges with Europeans take place. This development did not last long, as the city was destroyed during the conflict that broke out between Al-Sa'id and Abu Sa'id Othman al-Marini. In 1515, Portuguese forces landed in the area in order to build a Kasbah at the mouth of the Rabat River, and Muhammad al-Portuguese al-Saudi succeeded in besieging the city and expelling the Portuguese. In 1614, the Spaniards succeeded in colonizing the city for 67 years and called it San Miguel de Ultramar. After several attempts, the Alawite Sultan, Mullah Ismail, succeeded in entering the city, etc. Since that date, this Kasbah will be known under the name of Mahdia, and it was governed by the chief Ali al-Rifi, who built a great gate, a mosque, a palace, a bath, a prison and several buildings. Currently, there is a group of buildings that are still prominently displayed inside the Kasbah, which epitomizes the importance of the site. We mention in particular the wall and then two doors. The eastern gate is considered the most technically important, as it was built in stone consistently, which dates back to Almohad times. In addition to these buildings, the Kasbah includes a few other buildings of a distinguished technical character, including the House of the Rural Chief, which was built in the 17th century AD, a private bathroom in a Hispano-Moorish style, and water tanks that were imprisoned in a mosque, as well as a collection of hotels and shops. Kenitra is considered the third industrial city at the national level, after Tangier and Casablanca, due to the presence of a large share of global investment, as well as the Atlantic Free Zone, considered the first of its kind on the continent. African also stressed the need to establish the major Atlantic port in the city as soon as possible. There are several industrial zones in Kenitra, the most important of which are Atlantic Free Zone, Bayrami Industrial Zone, Residential Industrial Area, Municipal Industrial District, Progressive Industrial Zone, Industrial Zone of Numero 9. A group of Kenitra zealous for their city created the Islamic Jihad Club as a symbol of resistance to French domination of sport in Morocco in 1938. The Kenitra Club was able to enter the first division of the Moroccan National League in 1956. The Kenitra Club won the Moroccan Championship for the first time in 1960, and after this victory the team went on to win a series of titles to crown the years 1973, 1981, 1982, as Moroccan champions and won the cup from the throne in 1961. Ahmed Sawiri leads the list of names that no longer need to be introduced into the city's footballing history. The adult game. The Kenitra Club has produced many international players, including Al-Bawahiyao and Khalifa, who are credited with first qualifying Morocco for the second round of the 1986 World Cup qualifiers in Mexico, as well as other players who shone in Kenitra, whether in the Kenitra Club or Al-Nada Kenitra, before evolving in major local and global teams, such as Youssef Shabo, Mustafa Al-Darz, Al-Tawariya, Abdellatif Hamama, Zuhur Larabi, the list goes on. The Boussidi player also retains the title of top scorer in the Moroccan league to this day, scoring 25 goals in the 1981-1982 football season. Please subscribe, like and activate the bell if you like the content, so we can continue for more. Give your opinions and suggestions in the comments so that we can develop the channel. Thank you.